M600 review. One major question mark hangs over the Noble M600, it starts at a hefty £206,000 asking price. So is the 662 bhp British supercar really worth an entire BMW 5 Series more than a McLaren 570s or a Ferrari 488? For a car that is hand-built in small premises on the outskirts of Leicester, by a team of fewer than 20 people, this does sound like an awful lot of money, particularly for a car that few people will ever recognize. During the course of our road test, however, the M600 went faster than a McLaren F1 in almost every in-gear increment from 20 to 160 miles per hour. That being the case, you might begin to understand why Noble sees fit to charge such a fee. Because in the end it is its raw, brain-mangling performance that defines the M600. Not just in a straight line but also around corners, under brakes, during acceleration, everywhere and anywhere. What we are talking about is one of the fastest cars that has ever been built for use on the public road, in light of which £206,000 no longer seems quite so crazy. Keen to have a substantial range, there are 3 models currently on sale: the Standard Coupe, the Carbon Sport, effectively a M600 dressed in carbon fiber finery, and the open-roof Speedster. Noble Automotive has previous when it comes to creating cars of truly stultifying performance. Noble's first car, designed by company founder Lee Noble, was the awkward-looking but surprisingly excellent to drive M10. Then came Noble's eureka moment in the form of the South African assembled M12, over 1,500 of which were sold in 6 years during the mid-2000s. The astonishingly rapid M400 was the final and most dramatic derivative of the M12 before Noble embarked on the M14, which then became the M15, neither of which saw production. The M15 did, however, provide the platform for the M600, a car completed after founder Lee Noble left the company in 2008. The Noble M600 may be a strangely derivative, unimposing, even backwards-looking supercar by the bombastic and avant-garde standards of the very latest £250,000 creations, but that cottage industry styling clothes a car for which no apologies are needed. As with all previous Nobles, the M600 uses a mid-engine space-frame steel chassis with double wishbones at each corner and coil-over dampers for its primary suspension. Although it may appear quite similar in concept to the stillborn M15, beneath its heavily restyled skin it is a significantly more exotic machine. Using carbon fiber for all the key body parts, the production car weighs just 1,250 kilograms, according to Noble, although on our scales the prototype we tested, whose body was made from regular glass fiber reinforced plastic, weighed in at 1,305 kilograms. The space-frame chassis is made from a combination of steel and aluminium, yet it is as strong and rigid as that of any rival, says Noble. The Carbon Sport is the only M600 model to take carbon fiber panels on and wear it with pride. At the heart of the M600 is a twin-turbo 4.4-liter V8 engine, originally designed by Yamaha for use in Ford's now-defunct Premier Automotive Group. It's a traditional 32-valve V8 set in a regular V design, not a flat plane, 180-degree crank like those used in Ferrari's V8 mid-engined cars, in other words. In this instance it has been comprehensively reworked by U.S. engine specialist Motorcraft, which has added 2 Garrett turbos and a new Motec ECU to boost power to 662 bhp at 6,500 revolutions per minute and 1.0 bar of pressure, and 604 pounds-foot of torque at 6,800 revolutions per minute. Open the rear clamshell and you'll discover the M600's other great secret: excellent weight distribution. The engine and entire transaxle, including the 6-speed manual gearbox designed specifically for the M600 by Graziano, sit so far forwards in the chassis that you wonder whether there isn't room for a second power source. At each corner the M600 uses steel brakes with 6-pot calipers at the front and 4 at the rear, designed by British braking specialist Ilkan. Controversially, there is no anti-lock system, Noble claiming that high-effort brake feel would be compromised by the fitment of ABS. There are so many adjectives that can be used to describe the Noble M600's astounding performance that it would be easy to get completely carried away. So instead we're going to let the numbers do most of the talking. Take, for example, what it can do in fourth gear, and from as little as 40 miles per hour in most supercars you need to wind many more revs into the crank before anything interesting happens. But in the M600 it takes just 2.2 seconds to go from 40 to 60 miles per hour in Cog4. Even in a McLaren F1, which has no turbochargers to spin up, it takes 2.3 seconds. Drop to third and the M600 is closer to full boost, which is why it'll cover the same increment in a mere 1.4 seconds. But if you really want to feel the full effects, hook second. That's when the M600 feels at its most wild, generating just enough traction to catapult itself from 40 to 60 miles per hour in an incredible 1.1 seconds. More impressive is the Noble's lack of off-boost lethargy in the higher gears. Even when pottering along in sixth, the M600 is well-mannered enough to pull cleanly from under 1,000 revolutions per minute. Its cause is helped further by the light clutch and a swift, precise gear change. From a standing start the M600 is actually quicker than the F1 to 30 miles per hour, 1.6 seconds versus 1.8 seconds, but due to the fact that during the two gear changes needed to reach 100 miles per hour, you have to lift slightly to avoid lighting up the rear tires, it's slightly slower to 100 miles per hour. The Noble is still only 1.8 seconds behind at 200 miles per hour, 29.8 seconds. This is perhaps the clearest indication of all as to how rapid the M600 really is. And what of the brakes? Apart from the system's lack of anti-lock, they're excellent, not just in their outright power but also for feel from high speeds. On the road, a touch too much pedal effort is required at lower speeds, but the trade-off comes when you're going for it, when the feel is fantastic. A big black mark for the lack of ABS, however, which would give the driver a welcome safety net.